there was two of them. They didn't even have weapons. They got the weapons from the people that we had guarding the embassy, who threw them down and ran, and some of them was turning on us because they were in alliance with Al-Qaeda. We had hired Al-Qaeda to watch Al-Qaeda. This is really true. Just look it up for yourself. They held off for 7 hours. 2 men. They set up a perimeter. They killed 60 before they were gotten to. But here's what she says. She says, here's my story. She says, a week before the embassy was assaulted, it began receiving tips about Al-Qaeda in the area was going to plan an attack on 9/11/2010, because bin Laden had been apprehended right before the election. It all comes into play. What a mastermind, huh? For the next several days, the State Department and the White House were asked for security forces and were denied at least 6 times. Ambassador Stevens and his team were given the all clear that the consulate in Benghazi was safe and there was no need for security other than his 3 personal bodyguards, and one being my cousin, according to Mrs. Myers. Then the attack and the murders occurred. This is what she says. This is the way she wrote it down. Immediately, the White House claimed it was a protest gone bad over a YouTube video. Obama made a quick speech in the Rose Garden on September 12th before catching a plane to Vegas to campaign. He made a generic statement at the end of his speech about placing the blame on an overheated protest over the video. He said no act of terror will shake the resolve of America. Later that day and over the next 2 days, the liberal media began saying Ambassador Stevens and the 3 other men died of smoke inhalation. Do you remember that? This was not the case. Out of my respect for my cousin, I'm going to be specific about his murder. Ambassador Stevens was brutally murdered. His genitals were cut off. He was sodomized. They had sex with him. Beaten, cut, stabbed, and burned. Drugged through the streets on a motorcycle. There was a local doctor who found the ambassador in a ditch, didn't know who he was, and tried to save his life, but it was too late. The other 3 men, including my cousin, met similar fates and deaths due to deaths due to smoke inhalation. She said is 100% a fabricated lie. It's a lie. The next week, she says, I drove my aunt and uncle and 2 others to Washington, D.C. to receive his body. We met with Hillary, Panetta, and Susan Rice, all of whom apologized and said it was a protest gone bad over a video and exited the area. My aunt cried. Next, Obama entered the room with the same story and didn't apologize and wasn't even sympathetic, she says. My aunt cried to this man, and all he did was hand her flowers and walk away. She said, I tried to get his attention, but he didn't respond. She said, I got upset and yelled, liar, to him. He kept walking away. Then a Secret Service agent grabbed her arm and led her to a room where she was held until the proceedings was over. She said, I saw firsthand how cold this man is, what kind of liar he is. Most of you, she says, haven't a clue about this tyrant, and yet you support him and act like every word he says is gospel. These murders and the Fast and Furious cover-up makes Watergate look like kindergarten. Wow. People, I hope that we are awake, and I hope that you understand what I'm saying is true. Also, in Benghazi, President Obama is the only one who could have given the stand-down order or go across the border order. It's a cross-border authority order, or not cross-border authority order. So it's settled. If they're Russia or China or Iraq or Iran is going to bomb us and they're sending a bomb over to us, certain things go into play. Same with Benghazi. When an embassy is attacked, certain things in the military go automatically into play. And the first thing that goes into play is the Army starts responding. The Air Force starts responding. The seas on the oceans, the ships on the ocean start moving towards a problem area. Airplanes go into the air. Next, the president is contacted, no matter where he is, no matter if it's where he is, no matter what he's doing, he's right then and there, immediately. And we know we have instantaneous communication. So to say I don't know what's going on is stupid. We have instantaneous communication. Wherever he's at, he's communicated, he's contacted. He says yes or no. He gave the stand-down order. Then he lied about it. And he got elected. It would have changed the whole outcome of the election. Of course, he had got bin Laden, supposedly. The body's burned at sea. Things aren't adding up. All right, let's see what else we could talk about here that he's into right now. Verizon now has surrendered to the U.S. government all the conversations of its customers for the last 41 days. And according to the report, the Secret Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court approved the court order to the FBI on April 25th. So you can check me out on this. The Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court approved the court order. Gives the U.S. government complete authority to compile all the data they want over the next 3 months, ending July 19th. And the order was signed by a judge. Glenn Beck has something to say about this. He says, "You tell me why the government needs the information of every Verizon customer, but they don't need to know who's coming across our border," he says. "Why do they need all this for domestic terror, but they can't seem to get it right with the Boston bombers? Tell me why they need to know what my grandmother is saying, or what we are saying, when we're not even terrorists. We're not even suspected of terrorists. Why are the people being spied on?" And it wasn't only Verizon, it's all your telephone companies. I think there are 9 major telephone companies that were subpoenaed to give all their information, all their GPS location. Wow, something, huh? The government also seizing emails and tapping phone conversation of those on the Associated Press, and they also seized emails on a Fox News reporter. This is interesting here. Wayne Allen Root just returned from New York, where he attended his 30th Columbia University reunion. And he celebrated it with his esteemed classmates, everyone except Barack Obama. As usual, he wasn't there. Not even a video, not a personalized letter to his classmates. Nothing but worse, no one at our 30th reunion remembered him. According to Root, Columbia University, one of the most prestigious universities in the United States, had 700 and some odd students. Of that 700 and some odd students, 150 of them were political science major, as President Obama says that he was a political science major. No one in that whole class ever remembers sitting in a class with him. No one in that class, and every year he goes back, no one ever remembers him. The only people that remember him is one professor who hates Israel. And Obama has one paper there on record, which kind of gives a thin cover-up. People, it's the biggest scam ever perpetrated upon a country, and we're going through it. This is just another one. Now, I read another man who's sitting out, just like you, a man or woman, and they commented on this. And this guy is from Oklahoma, Pawhuska, Oklahoma. And his name is Randy Dean Ray. And he calls himself the top commentator. He's just a good old country boy. Here's what he says. He says, you never saw President Obama because he never went there. He is a liberal Islamic plant. They pull the biggest treasonous act of all times. It will go down in history how America was fooled by this idiot, socialistic Muslim party to bring about the destruction of the greatest nation in the world. And Obama will be there. Obama will be their God for bringing down the evil America. Soon we will be just like Egypt, Kuwait, Iraq, etc. There will be unrest, fighting in the streets, and people poor and starving in the streets because the elitists have taken all, our money, our dignity, our morals. Britain has had their guns taken away. Britain has had welcomed Islam with great tolerance and great liberality. They are welcome. Now, they're being killed in the streets. The women are being raped. Their daughters are being raped. Their sons are being raped by these jihadists. Recently, someone was beheaded in broad daylight, head cut off in front of people. Now, leaders have taken up and gone to the street. One leader who's just like you or I, except he's a leader, and you might be a leader, I hope so. He said, the government is bought out by Saudi Arabia. You know, Saudi Arabia has all the oil. He says, so they just talk. They never do anything. He says, we've had enough of it. The problem is, Britain surrendered their guns. They have no way to fight these guys. They have no way to fight. Well, they'll come up with a way. They'll come up with a way. I mean, there's more than one way to skin a cat. They'll find a way. And I'm not advocating fighting, because my fight is not against flesh and blood, but against powers and principalities and spiritual wickedness in high places. That's what the Word of God says. But we have to defend our daughters and our mothers and our sons and our daughters. We have to defend our family. So, by any means, don't give up your gun. Even if you're liberal out there, don't give up your gun. Because the gun doesn't kill, people behind the guns kill. Alright? So, now, the last thing, this is good. This is very good. Obama's birth certificate. I got to read real fast, got to get through this. I may not say this right. Sheriff Arpaio's, he's in Arizona. He had his chief investigator present a finding before a convention of sheriffs and policemen across the nation, and had a senator there. And here's what he found out. He says, this is a report to the sheriffs. He said the affidavit in the case, he says, it concludes that there's probable cause that forgery and fraud has been committed in respect of two documents. Number one, the long form original birth certificate computer image presented by Mr. Obama, which contained multiple errors and abnormalities, many of them serious. And number two, the selective service document from Mr. Obama, which contained a 2-digit year stamp. This was contrary to specifications issued by the federal regulations. In other words, none of them they've ever examined has a 2-year, a 2-place for the year stamp, like 45, 60, 92 or something like that. The federal regulations call for a 4-year thing. It proves his selective service registration is a farce. So in summary, let me say real quick, these are the scandals currently taking place at this very moment. The failure to rescue our people in Benghazi, the lies and the cover-ups, the IRS has been targeting conservative Americans and conservative Christian groups. The government has been seizing emails and tapping phones of members of the Associated Press and Fox News. The government has seized all telephone conversation by all customers of Verizon and other cell phone companies. Obama's birth certificate and selective service registration have proven to be false. Not one of Obama's classmates from Columbia University can ever remember him, and Obama continues to approve same-sex marriage until next time, as Jim Stocks was saying, keep looking for the handwriting on the wall.